Hi, this is Morley, and this is the M-Wire with a breaking news update regarding the Freedom Convoy 2022 in Canada's capital, Ottawa, Ontario. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has just evoked the Emergencies Act. Now, before I get into what the Emergencies Act is and what it entails, you kind of get the idea just from the name of it. But I just want to go off a little bit on the events of this. I am absolutely flabbergasted and stunned that Mr. Trudeau would go this far when he wouldn't even so much as talk to these people. Folks, if we go back to January the 28th, when the trucker convoy converged on Ottawa, Ontario, basically, they just wanted to make their voice known about the mandates, and they wanted to speak to Mr. Trudeau. Well, Mr. Trudeau conveniently came down with COVID and self-isolated and hid at an undisclosed location, and he wouldn't even so much as talk to these people then. He wouldn't even talk to them throughout the entire thing after his self-isolation ended. And now he goes and invokes the Emergencies Act to quell what he described as a fringe movement, to throw his own words back into his face. This is absolutely despicable that he would go this far without even so much as talking to these people. These are taxpayers, these are voters, and it's incredible that he won't even so much as discuss any of what their concerns are with them. It's very easy for a politician to get in front of a group of people with whom they agree with. It is not so easy to get in front of some disgruntled people who have legitimate concerns about the way things are going in the country and not even so much as address them whatsoever. Folks, this is absolutely, in my opinion, despicable, deplorable, and quite frankly, just almost childish at this point. It is just sad what is happening in Canada right now as far as the leader of the country is concerned. Now, I'm going to get into an article right now that kind of talks about what the Emergencies Act is, what exactly it entails for the truckers, and what exactly Freedom Convoy 2022 is going to look like in the future. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has invoked the never-used Emergencies Act to give his government's enhanced authority response to the anti-vaccine mandate protests and blockades gripping Canada. The law will grant Mr. Trudeau's government extraordinary powers for 30 days, including the power to prohibit public assembly, travel, and the use of specific property. The move comes amid weeks of disruptive and expensive demonstrations against COVID-19 restrictions. Law enforcement on Sunday reopened the Ambassador Bridge in Windsor, a critical crossing for Canada-US trade, after a week-long standstill. But in Ottawa, hundreds of demonstrators have begun their third week of occupation around the city's Parliament Hill. Here's a look at what the Emergency Act is and what it can actually do. The Emergencies Act, passed in 1988, bestows the government with added powers in times of national crisis. The situation must meet a high bar, specifically an urgent and critical situation that seriously endangers the lives, health, or safety of Canadians. And Cabinet may only invoke the legislation if the emergency cannot be addressed by any existing federal law and if it exceeds the capacity of provinces to handle it effectively. The Emergencies Act outlines 4 different types of emergencies: public welfare emergencies, public order emergencies, international emergencies, and war emergencies. If the legislation is invoked this week, which it was, it will be under the public order category, the criteria here in strict lawful protest do not qualify. Instead, the situation must be considered a threat to the security of Canada as defined by the Canadian Security Intelligence Service Act. This outlines 4 possible scenarios: espionage or sabotage, foreign influenced activities, threats or the use of serious violence for political, religious, or ideological objectives, covert, unlawful acts intended to undermine or overthrow the constitutionally established government. So far, I don't really read anything here that the Emergencies Act constitutes like under what the truckers are doing. They are protesting peacefully, they are not being violent. I don't even think this is constitutional in Canada evoking this act, but let's read on further. It is so far unclear which scenario Mr. Trudeau would rely on to justify the use of the Emergency Act. None of these 4 scenarios have been clearly present in Ontario. To invoke the law, the Prime Minister must also consult with the premiers of any impacted provinces before putting the move before Parliament. If the Act does not pass a vote there, the proclamation will be revoked. On Monday, Ontario Premier Doug Ford said he would support the federal government and any proposals they have to bring the law and order back to our province. The Premier of Quebec, François Legault, said reporters he didn't want to see the act applied in his province. Under the act, the government has a number of far-reaching powers at its disposal. The government could bar travel to or from specific areas, from Parliament Hill or major border crossings, for example. It could order the evacuation of people and personal property from certain areas, possibly using this power to clear out congested areas of protesters. And it could direct individuals and companies to render essential services, perhaps ordering tow truck companies to lend their services and clear the roads of demonstrators and their vehicles, which is what the tow truck companies, they've declined to move any of these trucks because they're truckers themselves, so they obviously support the truckers. But while Mr. Trudeau's government may be soon granted an almost carte blanche to respond to the protest, there is no indication the Prime Minister will also seek military intervention. While Mr. Trudeau has said that everything is on the table, he has maintained that military involvement would be a last resort. We are a very long way from having to call the military, he said on Friday. So from the sounds of it, this sounds like a very mild form of martial law, if you will, because he said that he's not ready to call the military yet, but who knows? This is Skippy Trudeau we're talking about here, so anything is on the table, as he said, but at this time he is not prepared to involve the military. Has the act ever been used before? No. The Emergencies Act has never been applied. The law was considered in the early days of the pandemic under the public welfare category, but was ultimately ruled unnecessary. Former Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, Justin Trudeau's father, did invoke a predecessor of the act. Then it was called the War Measures Act. The elder Mr. Trudeau used this earlier law in 1970 to suspend civil liberties and send in armed forces to respond to the political kidnappings of a British diplomat and a Quebec politician by homegrown terrorists known as the Front de Libération du Québec, FLQ. Army tanks and more than 1,000 troops came across Canada, were called in to support police in Quebec, ushering in the comparisons to a police state. Pressed by reporters about how far he would go in response to the crisis, Pierre Trudeau responded with his now infamous phrase, "Just watch me." Folks, he is bringing in essentially a mild form of martial law to control these peaceful protests, or at least he's trying to, because this still has to go through Parliament. He's proposed it. I'm not sure when they're going to vote on it, but this is absolutely insane for a peaceful protest. Like, I can't even believe he's doing this. Like I said, given the fact he wouldn't even so much as even speak to these people. Incredible. But I've been watching a few live streams like regarding the Freedom Convoy, and I have a feeling that these truckers are going to remain resolute. They don't have a lot of quit in them. They are going to basically stand their ground as best they can, no matter what they try, because they've come too far. Already in Canada, 4 provinces have moved to drop basically the Vax passport, and mask mandates are coming very shortly as well. So what the truckers are doing is nothing but working right now. They are not going to stop. Even if they have to go to jail, I think a lot of them will be prepared to do this because a lot of them have nothing left. They can't work anymore because of the cross-border vaccine mandate. So the most dangerous man in the world is the man who has nothing to lose. But I'm going to keep you posted on this. This is an absolutely incredible and shocking and stunning turn of events. I can't even believe this is happening. This is just way over the top, in my opinion. But I want your opinion. Let me know in the comments below. Do you think that this situation with the trucker convoy in Canada warrants the Emergencies Act as outlined earlier in this video? I don't think it does, but I want to know what you think. But thank you so much for coming along with me to my update, folks. Please remember to like, to comment, to share, and of course to subscribe. Until the next video, God bless.